Hello, my Aloha tribe, and welcome to the Aloha Perspective, where you get a little bit of something and a whole lot of everything. Happy Monday. It's Monday. It's a new week. I can't believe October is almost over. What happened to the month? Anyways, normally I do these while I wait for people to come on, the Aloha, Actions of Aloha cards. But today I'm feeling a little saucy and trying to get my mojo back. So I'm going to do one card from the Enchanted Unicorn Oracle. Okay, so let's do this. All right. Let's see what we got here. But so I don't lose anybody, we're going to do the affirmators today. But like I said, I'm trying to get my mojo back, so I'm just going to pull one card from the Enchanted Unicorn Oracle and see what happens. Let's see. We'll pick that one. Or maybe it's supposed to be that one. I don't know. Nope. We'll go with this one. That other one feels like it's, release judgments around food. I know, people really should. So anyways, what's this one? Pipe dream. Dreams become reality. That's good. Dreams become reality. Good morning, older sibling. I love this. This has the Cheshire Cat vibes. No, not the Cheshire Cat, the caterpillar vibes from Alice in Wonderland, right? Yeah, you know. So anyways, pipe dream, number 36. I like this. Dreams can come true. That's a really good card for a Monday. Or dreams become reality. The ficus tree is an enduring evergreen, also known as a weeping fig. This popular houseplant is easy to maintain and brings green life to any space. Its natural habitat is the rainforest, and it is considered a sacred tree in East and Southeast Asia, bridging the gap between human and the divine. On a metaphysical level, the ficus tree inspires the inner peace that comes from strong self-belief and a greater understanding of life's challenges. Good morning, Muddy. Divination. A pipe dream is a term usually used for unobtainable fantasy. This saying originated in the late 1800s and alludes to the fantastical visions opium smokers experienced. That explains the unicorn. Experienced. However, in this instance, dreams that seem impossible could become a reality. Fortune is on your side. Build your vision and start putting practical measures into place, because this unicorn symbolizes positive outcomes for outlandish ideas and projects. Perhaps you have been living under the shadow and the weight of others' expectations, and it's time to let that heaviness go. Maybe you are experiencing judgment from people who think they know better. Seriously. My life. Recognize that you now have the freedom to live your own life. You have gained a higher understanding of who you are and why you are here, and despite the naysayers, you need to give yourself permission to follow your pipe dreams. This unicorn appears when you need to hold on to a strong sense of self-belief and chase your wildest dreams. Oh, I totally feel that card. That's the card. There you go. Little pipe dreams, right? But, just to add on to that, they sit there and they didn't, the one thing I liked about this is that they didn't kind of belittle the opium smoker. Okay. Not that that was a good thing, but on the same token, the Japanese would sometimes use psychedelics to reach the ancestors. The Native Americans would smoke, what is it, peyote, I think? I don't know. I'm guessing here. But, or something to reach their ancestors and to, and this may be where the opium thing came from, for the Asians, right? Like the Chinese and what, but of course the opium den also, hey, make money off of what you can. But no, I'm kidding. That was a long time ago. Don't do that. But anyway, for me personally, want to hear some deep, dark, Shelly secrets? Sure. But anyways, like I said, for the Asians that did the opium, it could have been a way to relax or to heal pain, but also it could have also been their way of how to reach their ancestors or to reach that outer realm, right, where you get the answers. I have actually done edibles for this particular reason, to not to relax, not to get rid of pain, which, you do you, all right? As long as it doesn't become an obsession and an addiction, you do you. Because when it becomes an addiction, that's when it becomes a problem. All right. And that's anything. That's food, caffeine, sugar, alcohol, drugs of any sort. But for me, on occasion, when I was really struggling with my journey, I would partake in an edible. And whew, I'm telling you, the very first time I didn't get the dosing right, and I swear to you, I time traveled. But it's what it felt like. I felt like I was time traveling. It was wild. All right, it was wild. But here's the thing: how do we know it didn't happen? You know, I mean, just sit with me on this one, okay? Completely sober, all right? But no, just we always have, as humans, not all humans, but a lot of us humans have a tendency to brush off what can't be explained, because it's like, oh no, there's got to be a reason. That's the problem with a lot of us. There has to be a reason, right? There has to be some scientific explanation. And maybe that is the scientific explanation, you know? And then there's other people that say, no, that can't happen. That's not possible. Science isn't real. So, Sammy says, I wish I could find some good edibles. Is it legal in Georgia? I know it's legal here. The pot shops. I don't care, you know, do you. But yeah, no, the first time, and the problem was, okay, so I'm going to share a funny story, all right? Because like I said, I'm still a little discombobulated. I'm still trying to just kind of find my footing and get grounded here. But, so this is going to be a free for all. But that's the other reason why I want to do the unicorn card, because I think we all could use that, you know, your dreams are becoming reality. So, so just believe in them, right? And I guess that's why I'm also sharing this, because, you know, a lot of different cultures have used different things to reach their ancestors, and people will sit there and go, that's a bunch of hooey. And it's really not. They've been doing this for centuries. They've been doing this for millennias, excuse me. And yet people still poo-poo it, right? Eastern medicine has been around for thousands of years, and yet we still poo-poo that. However, when you mix Eastern and Western medicine together, sometimes, boom, you can get a nice, big, healthy explosion of good things. But when it comes to like, oh, I don't know what D8 and D9 are, but, oh, that's a bummer. Sorry, Muddy. Come visit. Come visit. But, we'll reach the ancestors together. I mean, I haven't done it in a while, but like I said, the first time it didn't feel like it was working. So I took another one and it still didn't feel like it was working. So I took another one. And so I was up to 15 milligrams, and for a beginner, not a good idea. Like I said, I swear to you, if you ever run into me on the street, or if you ever want to know, I will tell you the story of what happened, but it was wild. I mean, it was wild. And I am telling you, I think that there are things that are possible in this world when we open our mind. I mean, we use like what, 10 to 15% of our brain? Imagine what we could do if we use more. Look at some of the smartest people out there. You know they're using more than 15% of their brain. You know, but, oh, it's just, ugh. Yeah, I totally get what you're saying. But anyways, no, I like the cookies, you know. I'm a foodie. What do you want? Somebody yesterday said they were, oh God, what was it? I can't remember how I put it. Oh, she said she was looking at a bucket of popcorn, because my cousin and I went to a Kaylee Rachel concert last night, the Hawaiian singer, my favorite. And the woman, she said, oh yeah, I could eat that bucket of popcorn by myself because, you know, I'm a pig. And I said, you're not a pig, you're a connoisseur. So remember, don't put yourself down. All right. Just keep it positive. You know, just because you want to eat the bucket of popcorn does not mean you're a pig. It just means you love popcorn. All right. And it's not like you do it every day. Okay. I mean, if you do it every day, there might be a problem, but that's called food addiction. But you know, if you're going to the movies, hell, I never share my popcorn at the movies. Yeah, I admit I'm stingy. It's like, you know, get your own popcorn. I will buy you your own popcorn, but do not eat my popcorn. I know. Anyways, I'm wasting time. But yeah, so, you know, you can take what you want about the edible thing and my little adventure into it. But yeah, I try not to do it too much though, because I mean, the thing with, with pot. And I don't know about everybody else, but it really dehydrates you. So you really have to stay hydrated. But it does. At least for me, it does. And it kind of feels like, you know, the life is being sucked out of me, and I can feel every part of my body. Like legit, I can feel my heart racing, or I can feel my heart beating. I can feel my breathing. So sometimes it does upend me a little bit. So I don't do it very often, except when I know I need to kind of break through that, when I need to break through this wall that I put up to try to crumble it down, break it down. And, you know, if you want to say reach out to my ancestors, fine, whatever. I'm trying to reach out to somebody, you know, like, that's safe. All right. Like, I find specific people, you know, please guide me, whatever. And that helps me remove that veil, that wall. So, you know, you can say what you want about it, but I don't really care, because it's worked for me and I enjoy it. But do it safely and do it responsibly, and do not operate heavy machinery or drive, okay, if you're going to do that. Sammy, I have no problem eating a bucket of popcorn by myself. Me neither. But I admit, as I've gotten older, I like it straight out of the popcorn machine. You know, when I go to the movies, I don't like butter on it. I don't like the extra salt on it. I just like the popcorn, you know. And part of it is, I have this weird hand thing. And I don't know why. I don't know what it is. I've tried not to do it anymore, but it still happens. I won't eat ribs because I don't like it when the barbecue sauce gets under my nails, but I love ribs. So if I can eat it with a knife and a fork, which apparently is sacrilege, then I will eat it. But yeah, I have this weird thing about my hands being dirty. I just don't like it. And, I mean, maybe it's a little bit of my dinged up mental health, which it probably is. But that's another reason why I just don't like popcorn on my butter on my popcorn anymore, because it gets so greasy, and it's just kind of like, ugh. But also when I was on the OptiFast diet like 11 years ago, we couldn't put butter or salt on it, or extra salt. You know, just, it was like, you know, if you're going to eat it, just eat it like it came right out of the machine, you know, at the movie theater. And I learned to love it that way. So, you know, but anyways, all right, let's go. Affirmators. Home is where the heart is. Little buffalo guy. I think that's a buffalo. Is that a buffalo? It looks like a buffalo. I don't know. There's a difference between a buffalo and a bison, but whatever it is, we're just going to go with the buffalo. So Sammy says, I wouldn't try to share yours then. Yeah, your hand would get nowhere near my bucket of popcorn, miss. Ask older sibling. I buy her own. So, no, I do not share. But anyways, there's a little integrity, and there's a little buffalo blowing smoke rings. See? Blowing smoke rings. There's symbolism there, if you know what I mean. So anyways, maybe he's partaking with his herbal tea and his herbal pipe. So anyway, we can make anything we want it to, can't we? But anyways, so I'm sorry, my brain. Anyways, integrity. I align with the center of myself, a glowing core of personal integrity. Emanating from this core is the knowledge that I never have to compromise who I am or what I want for anybody. I can live a life that doesn't include settling unless I want to settle, in which case settling would be my idea of perfection and would cease to be considering settling. Ugh, paradoxes hurt. Yeah, that card, you know what? It wasn't even me. That card went rogue at the end. But yeah, so let's start at the beginning. I know, right? Sammy's all, I love the buffalo. He's so good. He is. And look, I don't know if you can see it, but you got a little thing of tea right there. Homie's just chilling. You know, his little slippers. I don't know if you noticed that, his little house slippers. It's like, okay, he's comfy. He's just like, I'm not going to buffalo for the rest of the day. I'm just going to sit here. And you know what would be funny? Wouldn't that be funny if there was like some magical den that they roam the prairies, right? And they roam like the national parks. And then at night they just, when I was a kid, I used to imagine all the dolls at Small World taking a smoke break. Like, when the ride shut down, or at night when the park is closed, it's just getting off their stands and going home for the day. Of course, if that happened in real life, we'd probably all like scream and run in the other direction, but they'd be like the happiest dolls on the planet. You know, can you imagine? They're probably like, I'm so tired of singing this song, but it's a job. It's a paycheck. So anyway, this is my brain. This is my brain. This is how my brain works. It can be very creative and very imaginative, but also a little bit wild. So, integrity. See, I'm squirreling again. I apologize. I think I'm slowly coming back to me, you know, and getting out of this dinged up mental spiral thing I've been in, but this depression. But I'm getting there. So anyways, I align with the center of myself, a glowing core of personal integrity. Emanating from this core is the knowledge that I never have to compromise who I am or what I want for anybody. Compromise is a choice. I want to say this because I think this card is a little bit misleading in my own opinion. Okay, this is my own humble opinion. If you're in a relationship, compromise and communication are the two big C's. Okay, the two big C's, compromise and communication, right? And look, they make a little heart. So compromise, communication, ding. But when it comes to you personally, in your life, in the life that you lead, there are times when we need to compromise, and there's times when people just want us to bow and bend the knee to them. And that is not going to happen. You know, my cousin and I were talking about something yesterday, and I was just like, I just don't get it. You know, why? Why kowtow? You know, I'm not going to do that anymore. I said, you know, I reached this age and I'm just kind of like, you know, I have boundaries now. And some of my boundaries include, you know, people who have written me off, and it's like, then they try to get back on your nice side, and it's like, no, you know what? I don't need to be beaten down by you anymore because I have enough problems with my self-esteem. Okay. I don't need your help. And so people will call it self-preservation, but I think boundaries are a good thing. And if people start to learn their lessons, like we've all had to learn, then, you know, you can decide if you want to let them in, but you can still set boundaries with people. All right. Nobody is entitled to your energy. We give our energy freely. We give it our energy to people who respect it. And that goes the same for us. It's not just a one-way street. If somebody is not willing to give you their energy, you have to ask yourself, what is it that, you know, is causing this? And maybe you have to have that communication with that person. Maybe you have to have that compromise. Maybe you might be a little overbearing for them. You know, I mean, never stop being yourself. But also, you know, don't dim your sparkle. Don't dull your sparkle for anybody. But sometimes our sparkle may be a little too much for some people, you know, and you don't have to change, but you have to also respect their boundaries. Okay. You have to respect their energy fields too, because they may not be where you are. I was watching a lot of Carl Jung videos this weekend, and I really love that man. I got to read more of his books. I have 2 books, but they're at home. So, you know, can't really do anything when they're not near me. But, however, what I like about him is there's a lot of us who really kind of move along a different mental level. And I don't mean we're smarter, we're dumber, we're just a little bit different. You know, there's the terms empaths, there's the terms metaphysical, there's the terms spirituality. And a lot of times psychology will write these things off. They'll write us off because it's like, it's not possible. You can't think that way. There's only religion. And it's when you really stop and think about it, spirituality or, you know, the metaphysical aspect of life is kind of a religion for some people. You know, I mean, people will call people pagans, but it's like, if you really want to be honest here, religion took a lot of pagan ideas and made them holidays. Halloween, Christmas, Easter, they were all pagan rituals before they became religioned. Okay. So, and you may say, no, even Valentine's Day. That's right. It's actually not a Hallmark card. or a day invented by the card industry. It was a real thing. You know, St. Valentine's is a real dude. But that being said, this isn't a lecture on those things. Okay, this isn't a symposium of those things. But I also think our integrity is challenged when we judge people of that nature. I can be judgy. I admit, you know, I had my petty moments this weekend. I had my judgy moments this weekend. But I'm human. And I think we're all going to do that. I think we're all going to, you know, there's going to always be somebody or somebodies that are kind of, you know, we're going to look at with the side eye, like, you know, we're going to be all catified on them, like, you know, silent judgment. But cats just do it so much better. And I think the reason cats do it better is because we just know that that's what they do, right? But we don't judge them for that. It's kind of, well, some people do, but it's just kind of like, oh, there she goes again, or there he goes again, being all judgy. So, you know, I'm not perfect. I mean, I'm not perfect by any stretch of the imagination, and I'm perfectly fine with that. But there are people in this world who sacrifice their integrity for perfectionism, who sacrifice their integrity to be in a group mentality, who sacrifice their integrity to, you know, just run up against people that they don't agree with. And then they turn around. It's like, but I have integrity. No, sweetheart, you do not. You think you do. And it's not your fault because, you know, a lot of it is learned. A lot of it is anger fueled without even realizing it could be anger fueled. I come from a generation where, you know, Gen Xers are a little bit, I'm not speaking for everybody, but, you know, a couple of us were talking about this, and Gen Xers are kind of in this precarious place, right? Because the millennials were, you know, kind of taught by Gen X to speak up for themselves, you know, and when we were younger, we didn't. You know, we were just kind of like, we were the silent observers, right? But our younger boomers, our late 50s and early 60s boomers, you know, I would say the last 7 or 8 years, like from older sibling to one of my really good friends who was the last of the boomers, kind of teeters on the Gen Xers, right? They started teaching us, you know, be loud, be proud. All right. And carrying the signs, being hippies, doing all those things, being the flower children of the world. And, you know, and so it's, I think now as adults, we're all kind of sitting there going, I found my voice. But also I look around and I just go, what the fuck is happening in this world? And then we start speaking up because at this point, you know, we've survived everything. We've survived everything from our childhood. We survived, you know, walking home from school by ourselves. We survived, you know, weird shit that happens everywhere, you know. I found something out interesting, and I'm sorry, this is just hitting my brain. So like I said, this is going to be one of those, a little bit of something and a whole lot of everything. But my dad and I were talking last night, and, you know, after the concert, because I was telling him about the concert, because he was supposed to go with me, but, or technically I was supposed to go with him, but he's still not quite there. He can't walk that far yet. But, anyways, we were talking, he's all, yeah, I was going through Facebook today, and I found the article about this one person who I'm not going to name because I don't want to give them any, you know, I'm already going to kind of give an idea. But apparently, 1979, so what is that, 46 years ago, this girl at, I guess, 16 or 17 just decided to, you know, her father gave her a weapon for her birthday, and she went to a school and shot it up. Elementary kids, janitor, principal were both killed. I didn't realize that this was like a stone's throw away from where I lived at the time. And the Boomtown Rats actually made a song about it. I don't like Mondays, or that was her whole thing. They're all, why'd you do this? Well, I don't like Mondays, or I hate Mondays. I can't remember what it was. I tried not to commit it to memory. All right. So I know you're thinking, what does this have to do with integrity? It doesn't really, but it does go to how when we think we're doing the right thing. We're not always doing the right thing. And I don't mean her, but it's clear she struggled with her mental health. But you see, a lot of us were raised by a previous generation that didn't believe in that or still struggle with it because it was so poo-pooed, right? It was like, no, we don't talk about those things. And when you stop and think about it, Freud was just at the beginning, or he was at the turn of the century, the 20th century. Jung lived until the 60s, the 1960s. So, modern psychology, I should say, is still very new. But the one thing I loved about Carl Jung is that he kind of reaches past normal psychology. He reaches, past the accepted, I'll say, the accepted versions of psychology, like Freud and some of the other, famous psychologists back in the day. Freud was just kind of like the grandfather of psychology, but he was one of Carl Jung's mentors, and but they kind of split off because they started to, their teachings became a little bit different. Freud was very surface level, in my opinion. And there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, if you're a Freudian, hey, all more power to you, okay? But having had to go to therapy and having, just really kind of gone in there and then read about Carl Jung, who I just accidentally happened upon when I chose to do some shadow work. Like I said, I always thought shadow work was metaphysical. I thought it was just a metaphysical term, but it turns out it was his term. But he's kind of like the psychologist for people, who go beyond the veil, and he never sacrificed his integrity. He never said, no, I'm okay, fine, I'm going to conform to you so people will accept more of my work. He just kept plugging away. He kept going and going and going. And now a lot of modern day, more modern psychologists are starting to look back at his work and go, you know what? He made a lot of good points. The man died like 60 years ago. But, I hope from whatever cloud he's sitting on, that he can see now how profound his work how profound his work is, and how, well, I think he knew how profound it was, but how people are rediscovering him, and really kind of stepping into what his teachings were. And it changed my life. It really did. The shadow work changed my life, and I did it step by step. I did a show on it a few years ago. And I may do another one again from a more healed perspective to see what it was like, or what it would be like now from where I'm standing, as opposed to being one of the people going through it while I was talking about it on that week-long show. But I guess maybe the whole point that I was trying to bring up is that, Carl Jung really did not sacrifice his integrity. Even when people kind of raked him over the coals for his teachings, you can see a lot of his influence in a lot of the positivity accounts now. I don't know how else to put it, but a lot of the, go deep, right? And doing the shadow work and doing all these different things. And I absolutely love that, even though it's taken this long after he's died, that more and more people are understanding the concept of what he was trying to teach. Now, it may not be for everybody, they're, like I said, but I also think that if you do have a dinged up mental health, there's so many different avenues now that you can take without other people knowing, if you're afraid of other people knowing, because it's still stigmatized. And that just, that chaps my hide hard. It really does. Because people don't get the help they need because they think there's something wrong with them if they have a dinged up mental health. I knew on Thursday that the minute I hit start and go, all right, the minute I hit go live on that show, that I should not have done it. But I tried to push through. And then I spectacularly fell apart towards the end of it. And the minute I hit finish on the live, I just literally broke out into tears. I mean, the last 3 minutes of that show, I was doing everything I could to hold it together. And the reason I'm sharing this now and the reason I'm telling you this is because it's okay. I mean, there's a saying, it's okay to not be okay. I'm no different than the person that I sat across from or in the same building as at Starbucks that Thursday. I wiped my tears. I said, you know what? Let's just go journal. Let's just go do whatever it is we need to do to just, try to find this center again. When we ignore our mental health, it's a huge disservice to ourselves. When we allow others to, just kind of step all over our own needs and our integrity, right? In a way, I'm not even sure if I'm going to use that right, but I don't care, because you see what I'm trying to say. We're doing a disservice to ourselves. The hardest thing I've ever had to do in my life, aside from all the trauma healing, was really, the trauma healing was hard, and but that was a natural thing that everybody goes through. But once I finished that trauma healing, I thought, okay, my depression is situational. That's the only reason why I have it. But it didn't go away. And it took me about another year or several months or whatever, however long it was. I lost track of time, to be honest with you, to realize that the dinged up mental health is just a part of my life. And I can continue to ignore it, or I can embrace it and say, look, you need to figure out now your triggers. You need to figure out the signs that, you need to be able to look about 5 seconds into the future and understand that, where is this going? Is this a feeling that's going to be gone in about 10 minutes? Or is this something that we're going to have to fight for a couple of days or the rest of the day or a week or whatever? And because of that, my spirals do not last more than maybe a week or two, if I have one. And it's not as commonplace for me anymore to have them. I may go through an episode, which is just a depressive episode, but my spirals are becoming few and far between. And that's because that when I have my depressive episodes, I'm trying to work through it instead of ignoring it. I'm moving through it now. I'm not moving around it. I'm not trying to dig a hole underneath it. I'm just going, all right, look, I don't know what it is. Maybe it's just a mood. There may be no reason. And that was one of the hardest things I ever had to do, was to realize that sometimes there will be no reason. But I still have to push through it. And sometimes that just means being quiet, crawling back into bed, doing whatever, maybe, binge eating on something or, emotionally eating something. When I do the emotional eating consciously, I don't do it after that. I kind of feed the whatever, and I'm like, okay, I did this, and I'm not going to shame myself over it, and I'm going to move forward. And to me, in some way, I think that's integrity too, because I'm not betraying myself. I'm not, sacrificing what I need because society tells me that what's happening to me is, unacceptable. It's not unacceptable. I can only imagine how many people out there have a dinged up mental health and have gone completely undiagnosed because they're afraid of what other people will think. They're afraid that, the world is going to judge them. And, and it might. And that's where I think the integrity also comes in, because we're not doing it for anybody else. So, it says right here, Emanating from this core is the knowledge that I never have to compromise who I am or what I want for anybody. And like I said, that's in a singular mode. You don't, but like I said, if you're in a relationship, the two C's, all right? If you're in a friendship, there's still two C's. But what I mean is you don't have to sacrifice your ideals for somebody else. You don't have to sacrifice your health for somebody else. And that includes your mental health. All right? Remember, self-care is not selfish. It is necessary. Absolutely necessary. And when we learn that, when we understand that, then, we are true to ourselves. We are our authentic selves. And that's one of the beautiful things I was learning about Carl Jung. He actually talked about empaths. He actually talked about being the authentic self. He talked about boundaries. And I love that there's so many people now that are taking his teachings, breaking it down into, modern talk, I guess, and just saying, hey, this is what he thought. These are the things that he talked about. These are the things that he believed in. And I think that's important because it goes deeper than just our psyche. It can really affect our integrity. We don't want to have the mob mentality. We want to be able to think for ourselves. And I don't know. I think, if you're good with the status quo, that's okay. That's your choice. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that. Maybe some people came back to this life just for a vacation life and they're like, yep, I'm just going to go through this. I'm just going to chill. I'm going to sit back and enjoy my, my 9-to-5 job, my family, and, my car, my house, my dog, the nuclear family, right? My 2 kids and a dog and maybe a cat, but, and that's their choice. And, don't try to push people out of their comfort zone. The biggest thing I learned this weekend while watching Carl Jung videos is something that I struggle with, and I struggle with it every day. And it is not my job to fix other people. It is not my job to fix other people. The only person I can fix is myself. And I talk about that all the time. I talk about how we can only fix ourselves and maybe lead by example. But we cannot fix other people. We can't. It doesn't work that way. And once we start to understand that, once we start to really kind of grasp that, we become better for it. Heal by example. If somebody comes to you and says, hey, can you help me? Help them, but you can't do the work for them. All right? They have to do it for themselves. Check out this buffalo, right? He's just chill. He's like, I don't give a shit about anybody else right now. I'm just doing my own thing. I'm drinking my tea. I'm smoking my pipe with my cute little fuzzy slippers, little checkered lined slippers on, his little house slippers, his home sweet home sign, or, home is where the heart is. And, oh, it's crooked. It's crooked. But anyways, so I know I was all over the place, and I can't tell you when I'm going to feel back to me again. I can't tell you when the shows are going to be a little less discombobulated. But as Sammy said to me last week when we were talking about the show, and I was like, I did not plan this direction. She says it went where it needed to go. And I think that's what today was. It went where it needed to go. And I think that's what's important. But integrity is also important. And, I'm sorry. There's all these cute little birds outside, and there's a little hummingbird just sitting on the tip of this one branch, just chilling out, looking around. They're beautiful creatures. But, yeah. Anyways, sorry. But anyways, I hope everybody has a wonderful, wonderful day. I'll see you back here tomorrow, 8:30 a.m. Pacific time, Facebook Live. All lives are public. Anybody can watch under Shelley Marie Lucas on Facebook. I also upload to YouTube, Blue Sky, Threads. I think, you can pretty much just find me under Shelley Marie Lucas. Instagram is GoalieFan1973, and Twitter is Shellbell's Quest. So I usually say that because they're a little different than the Aloha Perspective or Shelly Marie. So again, I hope everybody has a wonderful, wonderful day. Thank you so, so much for watching. Guys, here's something wild that I can't believe. In exactly 2 weeks, my father is going to be 80. I know. Can you believe that? He's going to be 80 years old. Wow. That makes me old. I'm kidding. I've always, since I was a kid, and I read this one comic strip, this is what I've always kind of lived by. Age is just a number. All right? Age is just a number. You have 100-year-olds that act younger than 40-year-olds. You have 40-year-olds that, are more open and joyful than 20-year-olds. So age is just a number. And I think a lot of times what matters is just how we look at life, how we live life. And I think the best way to do that is to just enjoy it. Enjoy it. Don't worry about the number. Don't worry about the number behind you, chasing you, right? Because it's just a number. I have people that'll say, well, how old are you? Oh, wait, I'm sorry, right. Never ask a lady how old she is. I'm like, well, it's like, first of all, thanks for thinking I'm a lady. And secondly, it's okay. I'm proud of my age. Like I said, I faced my mortality at 3 years old without realizing I was facing my mortality. And so, I just, every year is a gift. Every year is a gift. And I think whether you face your mortality or not at any age, every year should be a gift. I went to a funeral yesterday. A Hanai auntie passed away, and she just turned 79, and cancer. But and I'd known her for like 30 years. So it's just you never know. So this is a woman that lived life. So just live it. Go out there, keep your integrity. All right. But go out there and live life. Enjoy it, and stop worrying about the number. Okay. Cause it's not, instead of letting the number chase you, be friends with it. I'm happy at 52. Not a big fan of my 40s. My 40s is where all my healing was happening, where I lost my mom, I lost Sissy Joe, lost one of my best friends at work. My 40s were rough. And it's just kind of like, when I turned 50, everybody was like, are you okay? And I'm like, I am so fucking happy that my 40s are over. I legit said that out loud. I'm like, I am so fucking happy my 40s are over. I fucking hated my 40s. And it's, when I look back, I don't think I hated it. It was just really hard because that's where I did all the healing. That's where, I went through so many horrible events in my life. And, and I closed out the first half of my life and said, you know what, let's just see what happens. And now I'm learning that. I'm learning to go with the flow, and not easy for me, but, I figure if I'm going to sit here and talk to you guys, I should probably practice what I preach. So, I'm doing my best. Progress, not perfection. All right. Progress, not perfection. So again, have a great day, everybody. Thank you so much for watching. Sammy, older sibling, I love you both. Thank you for being on. If anybody else popped on and I did not see you, I apologize, but thank you for being here. And for everybody watching later, thank you for watching the show and staying this far. But this is what a dinged up mental health looks like. It looks normal. It looks happy. It giggles. It laughs. But, and I'm not forcing anything. Okay. I'm not doing the fake it till you make it. I'm done doing the fake it till you make it. But this is how it goes. Because I can't tell you right now what the next 5 minutes are going to look like, or what I'm going to look like in 5 minutes when I turn this off. So that's what I mean by having a dinged up mental health. It's just, it comes in waves. You learn how to go through the waves. And now, I saw my cousin Jeannie. Good morning. Good morning, good morning, good morning. And then, I love you too, Sammy. So yeah, so it's just, that's how it works. At least for me, all right? And so just don't be judgy. Be patient with your friends who have a dinged up mental health. If they cancel, don't stop inviting them. Please, 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 please. They're not doing it because they don't want to hang out with you. They're doing it because sometimes faking till you make it, doing the fake it till you make it, is exhausting. It is exhausting. Sometimes just getting out of bed takes all the energy, you know. Just as a side note, before I let you guys go, there's a thing with chronic pain called spoons. All right. And, you know, people with chronic pain start out with an X amount of spoons. But one day, my friend who does struggle with chronic pain, said to me, you know, we were at Comic-Con and she's all, how are your spoons doing? And I'm all, what do you mean? I said, I don't have chronic pain. She's all, spoons aren't just for chronic pain. She's all, spoons are, you know, when you have a dinged up mental, well, she doesn't call it dinged up mental health. She's all, you know, when you're going through what you're going through, she's all, you have spoons too. And, you know, sometimes all of our spoons can just be used getting out of bed. So, you know, and then we're just kind of running on some kind of recycled energy. So anyways, have a great day, everybody. Thank you so much for watching. And remember, be kind, and be patient. Be kind, be patient, and be compassionate. Have a great day.